Talk to me nice, talk to me honestly. Look in my eyes, don't let it fall.
Hey y'all, hey, my name is Kristen James. I am proud to serve as the Sistas in Sales communications lead. I've been with Sis now going on 3 years actually, and this is my 4th summit. So it's so exciting to be back here with everyone. I'm so excited to see so many people in the summit. Thank you for being here today. And I am honestly thrilled and honored to introduce you to the amazing Ms. Felicia Fortenberry. Felicia is the team lead for Global Business Solutions at TikTok. She's a Wonder Woman. She's amazing. And I do want to just say quick shout out to TikTok. TikTok has been such a phenomenal partner to the CIS Summit this year. Like, I just want to give a quick round of applause to TikTok. I mean, really, everybody from TikTok has been so engaged with us. The booth has been on and popping at the expo. Really appreciate all the support and the investment that TikTok has made in CIS. And that includes the presence of the fabulous Miss Felicia Fortenberry. So without further ado, Felicia, we're so excited to see you today. You have had just truly an amazing career. Like, you have worked for traditional established brands like Ebony, Essence, to startups, disruptors like The Source. You've worked with Oprah, the Queen, and now you're at TikTok. And I would love for you to just talk to us about what your path is like, if you planned this, and if you thought that this is where your career path would lead you.
Oh my God, Kristen, thanks. You just went off again, but that's fine. Hopefully we can refresh and see you again, but not at all. I didn't expect that I would be where I am, but it was very deliberate in the beginning. I knew that I would work in advertising in some type of capacity. I majored in advertising. My dream was to work for one of the big agencies in either Chicago or New York, and I did that. My role at Leo Burnett, I was blown away by this 5'3" Italian woman who worked for Better Homes and Gardens. She was the publisher, and I said, I want her job. So I landed my first sales job at what I call the Bible for Black women, which is Essence Magazine. And from there, I've just worked and launched some of the biggest brands in print, pivoted to broadcast at Viacom, and now I'm in a leadership position in tech at TikTok. One of the things that I like to say is that I've never been really afraid to move or for a new challenge. And I think that's been part of my success, is to been able to be nimble and to pivot and just kind of put myself out there. And that's what I did just recently with TikTok. While my position was downsized during the pandemic, I didn't choose to go traditionally back into a traditional media or even an individual contributor role, which I had always been fine with being an IC, a high-performing IC, but I'm in a leadership position at a tech company, and we are truly tech, true startup, and it's just been great the last year and a half.
Oh, that's wonderful, Felicia. Thank you for sharing that too, and also for sharing a little bit of how you pivoted too. I don't know if everybody can see me, but we're just going to keep rolling because
now you're
Felicia,
back.
I am back. Okay, Felicia, you're the star of the show anyway, so
I want to see your pretty face.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm going to keep going. And you mentioned, now that you are in the tech world, you talked a little bit about what that transition has been. How have you navigated some of the challenges that you faced moving into tech?
Well, it's interesting. I always thought, can you teach an old dog new tricks? And I say, yes, you can. Coming from traditional media, and moving into tech, and again, this is a startup that's of a different level, that's globally changing the media landscape. It's a brand new platform, and it was quite a stretch, but at the end of the day, it was the same function. Like, I'm in a sales function. You're trying to convince people to buy something from you. And that actually was my experience has really helped with that, because the landscape is constantly changing. And when I say change, it's not, oh, we have a new program coming out, or, there's a new issue of Essence coming out. It is real change where you have sold in something to a client and it's totally changed, or the product changes constantly every minute, every day. And being able to really roll with the punches has probably been one of the biggest challenges. And I think me being a little more measured, having experience, I've been able to navigate that more than some of my younger colleagues that have not had that type of experience.
Wow, that's very powerful, because you're touching on so many things. You're touching on particularly change management, which is such a valuable skill for people to have. And I appreciate you touching on that, because as we've been talking about so many different themes throughout the summit, that's one thing that is a constant. Like, you have to always have that top of mind and constantly be developing that skill. And that's a beautiful thing that comes with experience. So thank you for sharing that. I wanted to shift a little bit to the subject of this track, the conference, which is motherhood. And we've been talking a lot about motherhood about the past hour of the conference, particularly what it's like to be a mother, what to anticipate. And I'm not a mother. And I know you also made the choice not to be a mother. And I wanted to talk to you just a little bit about that. If you could share your perspective on what helped you to arrive at that decision.
Absolutely. I thought the last workshop was amazing. I really loved hearing different perspectives of motherhood, and even someone who had some challenges with motherhood. But I really want to share this commercial because it'll kind of give you guys the context of the environment I grew up in and where I came from. I think it'll be kind of enlightening. So pause brief here. I think I need to share my screen, or no, and go to YouTube, right? I pick that one, share, then go to YouTube,
Yeah,
paste.
perfect. Wow. Yes, that is I'm reading some of the comments. Like, it's pretty hilarious. Everybody is saying LOL. And it really was. That was a different world. Hey, Felicia.
Totally different world. So growing up in the 70s, I know I don't look that old, but
There you so, ma'am.
in 80s, early 80s, that was constantly shared. And I know that commercial by heart. And very traditional roles. However, it really taught women that you could do it all, that you had choices. You could take the kids to bed, get up, go to work, make the money, cook the dinner, and have sex with your husband every day of the week. So I grew up with that image. But as a Black woman, one of the things that I could say that it was no question that I was going to work, have a career, or own my own business. Now, question or choice. I mean, I didn't grow up independently wealthy. My parents, working class parents, but there was a choice to have children. And that's what I would tell, young women, that that's a choice that you make. I never felt that having kids would impact my career, or that I couldn't succeed if I did have kids. And maybe I was a little naive in thinking that, because I know there are or could be a lot of sacrifices to that. But you can do both. Some of you attended the previous panel and they were filled with some highly successful women who are mothers. Some of my best friends are Black mothers. My attempt is a joke. But when I look at my career, it enables me to make life choices. Being a mother was a life choice. My life is not my career, which is a different take. So if that is a life choice you want to make, my advice would say don't have your career dictate a life choice for you.
That is powerful. Like, don't have your career dictate a life choice, because what you just said, your career is not your life.
That's me.
Yeah.
That's me. Some people may feel something different, but I always felt that, oh, I'm successful. You know, my career, my job, and what I do affords me the things to do within my life. So that's how I've taken it. I think one of the things now, in the 21st century, and as women have careers, we just have so many more choices to make. And motherhood, to have or not to, is one of those.
Yes, that's very powerful. And that's like the theme of our discussion, the power in your choice, that the choice you make has to be the best choice for you. And we're very lucky to live in a time right now where you can make that choice, especially with some of the traditional things that society pushes on women and people who identify as women. It can be difficult sometimes. You lose yourself in a lot of those expectations.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you for shedding light on that. It's a very powerful perspective to have, and particularly for somebody like me, as I think about what my life might look like without children. It starts to make me think even beyond what the role of motherhood might be for me. And then, there's ways to be a mother or to nurture without actually being a biological mother or an adoptive mother.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like, we can nurture people that we care about. We can nurture our nieces and nephews. We can nurture our dogs. We can nurture ourselves. So it's very powerful. Thank you for sharing that, Felicia.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting you bring that up. And I know moving into the next question, like what type of advice you would give, or how did I come about this choice? I actually, is interesting. It sounds kind of mechanical, but I actually did a pros and cons exercise about having children. Like I had one column of pros and I had one column of cons. And to my surprise, there were more in the cons column than there were in the pros column. And when I looked at the pros column, it's what I would think are kind of superficial reasons for being a mom. And, I'm being a little transparent here, but I am authentically myself. I tell it like it is and the truth, but there are things like, oh, I want a baby shower. Wonder how the baby's gonna look. Just things like that. Oh, I want to see how I look pregnant. I want to buy maternity clothes. Like it was just things that didn't get into the nurturing part of why I wanted to be a mom. So I really like that you brought that point up, because it is real. You can nurture without having your own children. There's just, if that's an important part of motherhood for you.
Yes. And thank you actually for that answer too, because it's actually a really pragmatic way to make decisions, that pros and cons list. Oftentimes, I think we're conditioned to think that when you make big life decisions, like whether or not you want to be a parent, you can't apply that pragmatic kind of decision making to it because it's emotional. But even emotional decisions, pragmatism can come in. And so I really appreciate you sharing that methodology that you use. That's actually great advice for women who are thinking about it, women who have maybe made one decision and they're considering another. Make a pros and cons list if you can. Like that's a really good way to be honest with yourself and exercise a lot of self-awareness in terms of what you really want. So good advice. Thank you, Felicia. I wanted to ask you, while we're on the topic of advice, I wanted to pivot our conversation a little bit because we talked about your amazing career and all of the different places where you've honed your experience. This is kind of a thing and a theme that we've been talking about with life choices and different stages in life. But you mentioned before that you grew up in the 70s. You look absolutely amazing and fabulous. But for like a lot of the folks working at TikTok, for example, they weren't alive then. So like, how do you navigate working in what feels like a very young industry, having had so much experience?
Yeah, it's interesting because it doesn't just feel like it is. It's a young, it is. It's absolutely young. Like I could be, my direct reports definitely could be their mother and in some cases a grandmother. So ageism is real. And to be quite transparent, I think it's something that was top of mind for me, probably more than it should be. Like I think about it more than I should. To just give you some insight, I am probably the oldest or the older side leadership in the organization, which, I knew as an experienced salesperson that I would come with a different skill set that would probably be valuable to the organization, especially one that's trying to scale and one that's trying to evolve. And that was unique to my experience and what I brought to the table. My favorite quote, and if you go on my LinkedIn, you will see this as my backdrop, is be yourself, no one else is qualified. So authenticity is another key component on how I think anyone can break through. Because it's difficult to show up as someone else. Like you can't pretend to be anyone else unless you're Denzel Washington or Viola Davis. Now they do a good job. But Felicia, I gotta show up as Felicia. And that shows up in everything that you do. When you're interviewing, when you're talking to clients, it's an important trait to have. So I would say to a younger tech qualified, I would tell people that, always be authentic, but always find that unique skill set for yourself to kind of stand out. And always be prepared. And that sounds like a cliche, but I couldn't interview for this job without being myself, without my authentic, without my unique skill set, and then not be prepared. Come on, it takes more than that. And I think that that's a given, but it's very important as well.
Wow, that is very powerful, especially to hear you talk about authenticity and authenticity at this stage in your life too, because there is value. On the outside looking in, we're made to believe that, particularly women, we're made to believe that once you hit a certain point of your life, oh, that's it. It's over for you. You've got to start thinking about, sundowning. And that couldn't be further from the truth. And that's rooted in ageism. So hearing you talk about authenticity, your authenticity, it sounds like, has evolved over time.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And you bring that authenticity with you at every stage.
Yeah. I mean, it for me, it came with experience and with age, but I think that, the younger generation, the women that I am around, that it's there already, which is so refreshing. And I love seeing how, younger people, the younger generation, how they're embracing who they are. And it comes from, even the way you show up with the way you look. I mean, there was a time I would never wear braids to a meeting. I would never wear my hair up. Just certain things that I wouldn't do. And now I think that I've learned a lot from this generation that you can be yourself. If this is who you are, that's the best way to show up. And I just love that.
I love that too. Thank you for that. And just like one note about the braids, I literally, for the first time in my life, had braids last year. Literally never felt like I was in an environment where I could wear braids and I could be myself. But I started doing it last year, and it's been empowering. And I feel like it's authentically me. So thank you for that.
Yeah, it's so funny. We're still talking about hair, but it's true. Like it exists, and it's, part of the whole thing. I remember there were two Black saleswomen in media in Chicago, and they would always mix us up. Now, mind you, we looked nothing alike, nothing alike, not even remotely close. But I would keep my hair a certain hairstyle so they would remember, oh, she's the one with the short hair, and she's the one with the long hair.
Wow.
Never mind that I had a name like Fortenberry. Like, how do you mix that up?
Right.
But it's the authenticity part of it. We throw that word around, but it's a heavy word, and it's a word that we should definitely revere in terms of our authentic self.
Yes. Thank you. That's a gem. We have to revere that, and we have to be true to ourselves, not betray ourselves. Like, show up to who you are and be authentically yourself. Thank you for that, Felicia. And I want to leave a couple of minutes for questions, but I have one more question that I wanted to, questions from the audience, but I have one more question that I wanted to ask you. During another part of the summit, we talked about advice that you would give your younger self. And you've given us so much to think about in this conversation, from motherhood to career to pivoting to ageism to being authentic. What advice would you give to your younger self about the things that you have experienced and then subsequently the choices that you've made in your profession and personally?
Oh God, I mean, that I'm good enough.
Oh, yes.
And I deserve it. I still toy with that. Like, and I think it's Black women, especially Black women in sales, because we're not represented. I don't care what sector you're in, that we feel that way. And to dream bigger, like, don't just dream for this, account executive job. Like, dream to be the publisher, dream to, whatever your heart's desire. I would have told myself that, that life is too short, do what you want, and to forgive yourself. I mean, I have so many woulda, coulda, shouldas, and I chose a certain route, and I'm here today. Another motto I have is to keep it moving. I just look forward, and I can't beat myself up about the choices I made 10, 20, or 30 years ago. I know that's kind of a lofty answer, but it's how I feel, but it's the truth. But tactically, I know some of the women on here want some real tactics. I would say that I probably stayed in a couple of roles way too long. That I probably should have, while I pivoted a little bit, I probably should have pivoted a little earlier. And for that, I have to give myself some grace.
Yeah.
Like, it is what it is. Just, keep it moving. As my husband tells me daily, your book is not finished. And I love that. And I hear that a lot, and it's not.
Yes. Oh, woo. There's like so many quotables just from what you said. I'm taken aback a little. I'm like trying to absorb it just for a minute, because that was literally every word you just said was so powerful. It's so much to reflect on. Particularly, your book is not finished. Thank you for that, Felicia. Thank you for all of these wonderful gems, and truly for spending this time with us. We have some time left. Would love to engage with the audience a little. If you've got a question
Absolutely.
for Felicia, drop it in the chat, like, throw it our way. Like, Felicia is here and would love to share with the folks who have been listening. And while we're waiting for some people to populate some questions, I wanted to ask you just about, you were talking about showing up as your authentic self. I would love to get a sense of the ways that you think that companies can help people to show up as their authentic self.
I mean, we talk a lot about diversity and D&I, and that's like a big initiative. And it should be. I can't wait till it's not an initiative. I hope that that just is part of a DNA of any company. So really seek out, just as TikTok has partnered with Sis, other companies should definitely seek out opportunities to expand their knowledge in the marketplace, but also to just expand their workplace. Like, it's just beneficial to both parties. It's beneficial for companies to have a diverse work environment. So I definitely think companies should be able to do that and understand that diversity across not just age, but race, thought process, just background is important. And until companies really understand that, I think companies that do understand that will definitely be in a better place.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for that. That's powerful and very true. We have a question from Christina. Hey, Christina, in the chat. And it says, with all the places you've worked, Black talent and leadership, what is the one thing you've learned from them? A memorable experience, if you will.
Oh my God. This is one, I worked for Ebony magazine. It was my second sales job after Essence magazine. And I actually was hired and worked under Mr. Johnson, the founder.
Oh, wow.
I was in meetings with him every day. It was the only interview where I got the interview. I met with him and he hired me on the spot. Now I'm 24 years old. He's like, oh yeah, so when can you start? I'm like, can I have time to think about it? You think you interview, you'll hear back in a couple of weeks. He hired me right on the spot. But one of the things that I learned from him is don't be afraid. We would call on all types of clients, and he told a story where he, selling Ebony magazine back in the 50s, he actually met with Mr. Firestone. He tells me this story and he's like, yeah, well, Mr. Firestone, Black people buy cars and we need tires. So he would meet with the founders of the company in the 50s. So I surely could meet with a media planner, a media supervisor at Leo Burnett.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid. Get in there and tell your story. So that was probably the most memorable experience, working with some just great, icons in the industry.
Wow. That is a tremendous story. That is such an incredible experience. I've worked with Mr. Johnson, who literally is an icon in the publishing world and created so much. Thank you for sharing that with us. We have time for one more question, and we have one from Elena. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. I'm so sorry if I didn't. But she just said, when you think about belonging, which I believe comes from within, how do you find a sense of belonging?
Within a company or within a career, like what kind of context, Elena, I would love to
Yeah.
see that.
Maybe Elena might put an answer in so that we can give more context, but maybe like in a career. Oh, there we go. In company.
I always feel that, the company, while, there's a lot of power there, there still is, it's a two-way street. Like when I'm interviewing, you're not only interviewing me, I'm interviewing you. So it's a two-way street. So um, I start with that. And my sense of belonging really comes from we're exchanging, there's an exchange there. I'm lending you my talent, you are giving me a paycheck. Now, there's some lopsidedness in terms of where the power structure is, but I always felt that I had the power to make that decision. Like, so for me, it's the power to be able to stay and the power to be able to leave. So when I look at belonging, that's, if you switch your power structure and think about that you are in charge of what you can do, I think that that sense of belonging will be there.
Wow. Shift the power structure. You are in charge of what you want to do. And that's where you find belonging. That is a perfect word to end on. Felicia, thank you, thank you, thank you so much for sharing so much wisdom, so many gems with us. Much appreciated. Would it be okay for people to connect with you on LinkedIn,
Absolutely.
by email?
Yes, please share. Definitely.
Absolutely. So everyone, please, be sure to connect with Felicia on LinkedIn. Please feel free to connect with me as well. And just a big old thank you to everybody for coming to this workshop. Truly, it's been our honor to host Felicia. We've been so honored to have TikTok as a partner too this year, which has been so fantastic. We're thankful to our amazing audience. And Felicia, truly thankful to you. It's been my honor to talk with you today.
Oh, this was awesome, Kristen, you and sis Chantel. This has just been so great. I know TikTok is a company. We're honored to be partners this year and just really looking forward to how we can work together.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. We love to hear that. Much appreciated. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you back on the main stage for our closing keynote. Bye.